Welcome back to Where Winds Meet Lore series. Today, we're diving deep into the darkest secrets behind the villains of the game, the Aureate Pavilion, the Dream Puppets, and the mastermind who commands them. At the center of it all stands Li Zuo, the last emperor of the Tang dynasty. In real history, he died at only 17, but in the world of the game, if he had lived, he would now be 70 years old. In real history, Li Zuo was the son of the Tang emperor. When he was 13, Zhu, a warlord, rebelled and killed the Tang emperor, the guards, and all the top ministers of the Tang dynasty. Li Zuo was placed on the throne as a puppet and forced to live a life of fear and humiliation for 3 years. Then, Zhu decided to take the throne himself. Li Zuo was expelled from the palace and later poisoned. His death marked the official end of the Tang dynasty. That is why he's known as Emperor Ai, with Ai meaning sadness. Now, how did this scared little boy create the Aureate Pavilion? In the game, Li Zuo lived through the same events. After seeing his family killed at 13 and living as a hostage under a ruthless man, it would be no surprise if he carried deep trauma for the rest of his life. What changes is that he has one person he truly connects with, a dancer named Leoi in the royal palace. There is a heartbreaking story in the game about his exile. After surrendering the throne to Zhu, Emperor Ai was forced out of the palace through a narrow back alley. He could not allow Leoi to follow. He was a man stripped of future, power, and honor, while she was a nobleman's daughter who deserved a brighter world than the ruin he had become. Yet, Qingyi followed his carriage for many miles on foot. Her shoes were sunk in mud and falling apart with every step. Ashamed of his own fate, Li Zuo tried again to send her away. She only whispered, Zuo, let me show you the Aureate dance one last time. She called him Zuo because, in Chinese, putting before a name is a gentle sign of closeness. The Aureate dance was Qingyi's signature performance in the royal palace. The mud on her torn shoes could not lessen the elegance of the dance. As she moved, it felt as if the glory of the bygone days returned for a brief moment. Li Zuo watched in silence, tears falling at that last glimmer of the tongue. Soon after, Zhu ordered a silver needle doctor named Sun Buqi to poison Li Zuo. But Liu Qingyi disguised herself as Li Zuo and drank the poison instead. Sun Buqi later discovered that Liu Qingyi miraculously survived the poison because her body was unique. To use her as a subject for experiments, he kept her survival a secret, even from Li Zuo. This leads us into more game lore. 300 years before the story, a blind woman in a small village created the worms of immortality. She also adopted an orphan named Ba Wu, whose name means a child blessed by the dear god. She taught him her skills and gave him the worms, which lived inside a toad king. Before she died, she warned him that the worms could save lives, but would forever change those they touched. After her death, Ba Wu traveled to heal people, but like the young Zheng E, who also tried to save everyone, his kindness brought disaster. People followed him back to the village and demanded the worms. This angered the deer god, who unleashed storm and earthquake. The village fell deep into the ground and became the Gleaming Abyss. Trapped there, Ba Wu had no choice but to use the worms to save the dying villagers. Soon, he saw the price. After receiving the worms, the villagers lost their emotions and desires. Humanity faded away. Only the worms were truly immortal. Ba Wu then started working on a solution that could reverse the immortal changes. Whether he succeeded remains a mystery. 300 years later, Sun Buqi found the Gleaming Abyss and the worms in it. The worms needed poisonous environment to live, so he brought Liu Qingyi into the abyss and soaked her in poison to make her their host. Her unique body made her immune to death, but the experiment brought massive pain. She never cried. She only wrote the character Zuo when the pain was too much to bear. Sun Buqi also used her to sing and draw nearby villagers into the abyss so he could add them to his research. However, none of these villagers had Liu Qingyi's rare body, and all became dream puppets. After many years, she finally became the perfect vessel for the worms, which also meant she became immortal. But Liu Qingyi didn't want to live a life without feeling or humanity. Whenever she broke free of his mind control, she tried to suicide. The Void King was one of those who were drawn into the abyss. After his parents died from the experiment and Sun Buqi left the abyss, Liu Qingyi raised him. Li Zuo was 28 when he heard the story of immortality and came to the abyss. Never did he expect to find Liu Qingyi alive. He begged Sun Buqi's teacher, Master Moonstream, to restore her mind and memories, and the master succeeded. But, as the blind old woman warned, the other effects of the worms could not be reversed. Li Zuo did have some happy time with Liu Qingyi in the gleaming abyss. She danced for him, and together they imagined building a peaceful and flourishing country. But the poison from Sun Buqi's past experiments leaked into the nearby Little Deer village and turned it into the Wraith village on the map now. Years later, the lunar goddess Li Zhenzhen was forced to marry into the same village. The Sorrowfield village in Kaifeng was also a victim of Sun Buqi's experiments. Liu Qingyi treated the villagers while wearing a deer mask, but the guilt crushed her. She remembered tricking numerous villagers into Sun Buqi's deadly trap. To atone for her sin, she eventually chose to end her own life. Li Zuo came to very different conclusions. He had seen the cruelty in people and seen how rules and virtue failed to stop disasters. In his eyes, the world itself had pushed Liu Qingyi to her death. So he decided that the only way to reach the peaceful nation they once dreamed of was to turn everyone into emotionless, immortal beings. So after Liu Qingyi died, he continued the research on immortality. He also founded the Aureate Pavilion under the banner, "Desire stirs fire, feeling breeds sin. Only blank minds can build a realm of pure virtue." Southern Tang. Southern Tang is the strongest kingdom out of the Shiguo, the 10 small kingdoms in southern China. The name Southern Tang is a classic case of political maneuvering in a chaotic age. In ancient China, political legitimacy was a big deal and was tied to both the mandate of heaven and moral virtue. Southern Tang claims to be the rightful successor of the Tang dynasty, but in reality, they barely had any ties to the Tang emperors. With that in mind, it's easy to see why Li Zuo regards himself as the only true heir of the Tang dynasty. In his eyes, anyone who wants to claim rule over the lands of the former Tang is the enemy, whether Song or Southern Tang. And so, the puppet emperor became the puppet master, and the Aureate Pavilion was born from the Aureate dance. Many mysteries still remain. What has he done to his own body? Is Aunt Han connected to the Aureate Pavilion? If you want to know more, leave a comment below and I'll go into more detail in future videos. Thank you for watching.